Matt, we'll start with you this time. Despite this year not being what AlphaTauri had hoped for, can Ricciardo's presence provide a much-needed spark in the morale department the rest of the season?
Well, social media is a buzz that he's going to get on the podium next weekend, of course, in his return, or at least score a good hatful of points. It's not going to happen, I'm afraid, even though he has won at the Hungaroring in his previous Red Bull life. I don't think it's going to happen next weekend, should I say. Points, maybe. We might get rain at Hungary. We often do. He's very good in slippery conditions. But as we've mentioned, Tsunoda's not been pulling up trees at all anyway in that car, as you mentioned, Ben. He's only got 2 points to his name through the same amount of races as De Vries, including a sprint race, of course, at the Red Bull Ring a couple of weeks ago. But, I mean, they're one of those teams that are in that kind of Haas and Williams bracket of needing other teams ahead of them to slip up or fall off the road or break down for them to end up having a good result. We've got the summer break coming up in a couple of weeks. We've got Hungary and then straight to Spa at the end of the month before we get to the summer break. He's got 2 weeks to get his feet under the table and back up to full fitness, I guess. He was in the Red Bull at Silverstone yesterday doing a test, which is when he got given the word by the sounds of things. And Nick De Vries was not at that test. Helmut Marko was and phoned Nick and gave him the bad news over the phone, is what I've heard. So then Daniel was obviously given the word in the morning and we got to hear it yesterday afternoon. So what will he do? Probably a similar job to what Tsunoda has been doing through the season. Rod says if he runs 12th, it's a victory for him. So he's got a great opportunity. Yeah, I don't disagree, but there's no points for 12th place. So does that matter? More about where cars are running in portions of races when we get to hots and nots later on. But yeah. Well, let's see. If he comes in and does amazingly, then of course the fire of social media will be lit further.
Yeah, I certainly think that, Ricciardo coming in, this could be a real test for AlphaTauri, like I mentioned, to see just, where their equipment is at and what they need to improve. I mean, obviously, in F1, once you get started in a season, you're behind the 8 ball. I mean, it's pretty hard to get yourself out. But I think Ricciardo being able to get in the car, it's going to be kind of a refresher as well for the team, kind of getting somebody who knows the inner workings of Red Bull and everything that goes on there. So I think this will be a good opportunity, and it'll be interesting to see if this leads to anything else for Ricciardo.
Yeah, we have a comment here in the chat room saying that you feel bad for Nick De Vries, but love to see Daniel Ricciardo back on the track. Yeah, Daniel Ricciardo certainly been a fan favorite in Formula One for a number of years. Dating all the way back since his very first start in the pinnacle of motorsports, and it's been really interesting seeing how this story came to be. I know Nate Saunders, ESPN journalist in Formula One, wrote a really good piece on how this all came down. It started off with what seemed to be a normal Pirelli tire test, which turned into a phone call between Helmut Marko and Christian Horner to see how Daniel was performing, and according to the article, they were blown away that Daniel Ricciardo, that despite all the struggles he's had in his recent years of Formula One, had put together a really great lap time, which would have put him on the front row for the British Grand Prix. But however, in this article, that they said that it like comparing apples to oranges in terms of track condition, because this is the 2024 version of the Pirelli tire compared to the 2023 version that they just raced on last week, and plus the track conditions were a lot different. So they're saying you can't really compare the two, but nonetheless, it was still a very impressive lap from Ricciardo. And also interesting to read that Red Bull thought that he picked up some really bad driving habits compared to last time around when he spent time at Renault and then McLaren. But they feel like that Daniel Ricciardo still can get the job done, and we'll see what he's able to do at AlphaTauri moving forward. I know it's going to be really hard for him to do anything with a really bad car right now that AlphaTauri has. But I think, like you were saying, Ben, in the morale department, he has such this infectious personality, and people really love being around Daniel Ricciardo. So if the car is not going to do anything, if he's not going to be able to do anything with the car, at least the team and everyone at AlphaTauri will enjoy working with him because he has a good history of being someone who's really good to work with in Formula One.
You know, again, it's just the principle of not giving a rookie a full season. You know, I don't want people to take this as, you know, me not being happy that Daniel Ricciardo is back in Formula One, because I've been pulling for him to get a seat again, because I think he deserves to be in Formula One at this point in his career still. I think he still has something left to prove. I just didn't want to see it happen like this, but it is what it is now. He's back, and I think you're right, Kobe. You know, he just has such an infectious smile. He's absolutely going to boost the morale over at AlphaTauri. Again, you know, how well is that going to translate to performance on the track? You know, we're just going to have to wait and see. But I think Ricciardo coming back to that team, you know, might lift their spirits a little bit in what's been a pretty down year for them so far. So, you know, I think that that's only going to, you know, make things a little bit more positive as they try to work their way through what's been a very difficult season so far.